Welcome to Cosmic Connect. I'm Frenchie.
And I'm Blue. We are here to connect consciousness, but today we're going to talk about a few more starseed families. And I forget which
That's
ones we're going to
right.
start off with. Which one did you want to start off with? Or wait, do
We're
you want
gonna
to do a little incense and card pull?
Yo, can I tell you though, I had the freaking craziest time when I left my house to pick some stuff up today. And I go and mind you, the weather app before I left said 68 degrees. And I go there and the stuff was not there to pick up. And I'm on my way back. And it just starts torrential downpour on my freaking everything.
Oh no.
Oh, I've been feeling this eclipse. I've been feeling this Mercury retrograde still. Like, I've been feeling this Scorpio eclipse still. It's like every eclipse, it's like building up. It's like building, building, building. And then it eventually goes, and I have this like huge purge, usually around a week, but sometimes it's a few days, sometimes it's up to 2 weeks later. I just purge from this eclipse. So, right now, do you know how I feel? Is like, I'm about to have a huge ass purge one of these days, any day now. But it's like all this energy is like building up and it's at the top. And it's like, it feels crazy. That's like, oof. So we just got to cleanse these vibes real quick.
You can't let it get to you, man.
You
You
really
really
just got to
can't.
keep going. You really
Yeah,
just
I
got to keep
mean,
going and like
I'm
intend to
not
raise the
saying that
bar
it
back.
hasn't. I am not saying that it hasn't got to me because, oh boy, it has. But I try not even to acknowledge that it's getting to me, and I try not to even acknowledge that it's happening. You got me in the one message that cannot play for you, that keeps skipping, but that was just, oh, I recorded, it was like a 7-minute thing that just deleted, and I was just like, I don't remember what I said. So, but I mean,
It's been
other,
playing
it's
tricks. It's
mostly
been
just been
playing tricks
tech.
on us.
It's just been tech,
Lots of tech.
but
I
it
just
really
had
hasn't got to
someone
me.
from my past slide in my DMs. Like, what is happening?
Wow, I don't
I'm
ever
getting
get
hit from all
that.
directions. I feel like
I
I've
say
said
that and
before,
am I jinxing it?
no, I don't think so. I think it's just however it feels good to you. But I'm telling you,
I
like, normally it really doesn't affect me like that. And I feel you on that. I'm not even trying to acknowledge it, but it's been so
no
much
no no
things.
no
It's been so in
I'm
your
not
much
saying,
space. Like,
yeah.
whew, just gotta let it out, baby. It's freaking nuts.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
I like just
everybody's
feel
kind
like
of
it's
losing
freaking nuts.
it.
Everybody I've been talking to, you know what's interesting, and this actually ties to gonna save that for our next episode. Okay, so let's pull some cards.
um yeah, I mean, I think everybody's kind of going a little crazy, but I just feel
Give me
like,
some.
I don't know if I'm just kind of like to be in my delusion, but I'm not trying to not acknowledge it. Like, I definitely
Mm,
acknowledge it, but I
I get
acknowledge
that.
it more in like a joke, like a poking at it, like a funny, like a ha ha ha, like,
Mhm.
oh, Mercury retrograde, yay. Uh,
Mhm.
instead of like really letting it get to me. But, you know, I'm still I'm also just more of a person that if it does get to me, I'm gonna let one person and one person only see me do that, and it's Jeremy Edwards.
Mm.
So sorry, boys. So sorry. But other than that, I'm usually just like, it's great. Everything's fine. Don't let it get you.
Yeah, like I
It's
definitely
my
get
delusion.
a
So
bit of
don't take it personal.
that like sarcastic tone about it. I feel like that's what I get.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, exactly.
fucking Mercury retrograde once again. Like what I just keep saying is like, you really can't make this shit up. Like you cannot make this shit up because all the Mercury retrograde, like all the things that are of the transits, and like, not that I'm really even want to talk to people who just don't believe in like astrology and all that, but listen, you cannot make this shit up.
Yeah.
Cannot make this shit up. So this card flew out as we were talking. And it's the Three of Cups. And this is the Light Seer's Tarot. And it's beautiful. Look, they're literally looking in the stars.
Nice.
There's like 3 women, all in white dresses, out holding arms together, leaning together, looking over a lake, looking into the stars. And it looks like that is a dipper.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's actually, does it have some sort of like metallic features to it?
No,
No?
but it's just
Is it
really
white?
beautiful artwork. Like it almost,
It
yeah, like
looks
it looks.
cool.
It's, I just love the illustrations of this deck, and like the stars really look like they're glowing, but it's just like a painting basically. It's just like a picture. It's not. It's beautiful, but that's actually beautiful. Like I think this is dead ass like the constellation of one of the groups that we are going to be talking about first tonight. So that's actually crazy. We have this card again. Manifestation,
Manifestation.
baby. And that's the star, the lit ass star,
You are a
magic
powerful
wand.
manifester who can attract and create anything you desire.
Whew.
I definitely agree with that. It's actually probably one of my favorite cards to pop up. Just because, like, obvious reasons.
This is it's
Manifestation.
a favorite on the show. This was the first one we ever pulled on our show.
Was it?
Yep. Or at least the first. It was in our first episode we pulled that exact card. So
Hey.
I think that's very special.
Must mean we're on the right path.
The star, the torch, lighting the way, got in the way. Because I know it's a wand, but to me it like also reminds me of a torch. And the torch is a kind of one if we're getting into it. But I love that card so much too. And it literally has a star on it. It literally is a magic wand.
It's a good card.
Kind of looks like a joint from afar. So it's
Dude,
really,
it does.
it really is.
Dude, it does look like
a great card. Because it's literally smoking. It's beautiful. God.
I'm sure that they don't want that Yeah. All right.
Okay. So now we're getting into 3 different galactic groups, kind of continuing on the vibe of going on through all these different groups, all these different places from which a starseed may originate. And we are really excited to bring this episode of the 3 M's.
3 M's.
The 3 M's. MMM.
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 That sounds alien right there.
I wonder if that's what their light language sounds like. Okay, so
Mm,
the first group is the Mintakan. Mintakan?
Minitakan. Is that the first one you wanna talk about?
Hmm.
So what was it that was one that you were excited to talk about, right?
I'm very excited to talk about Mintakan. I really wanted to like bring them up last episode, but I was like, let me hold back. Like, let me not get into a whole other subjects.
Yeah.
But Mintakan is very related to Orion because it actually is in like the same location. It is within Orion, but it's just kind of like a distinct group, a distinct location within the grander Orion
Yeah. I was
episode of
I was
Orion. Yeah.
very intrigued that almost every article that I, like, kinda skimmed through or came across were those 2 were always linked, and I was like, "Huh, okay.
Mhm.
Alright, so this is why she wanted to bring that up." And then
Mhm.
the article that I will have linked below has so many things that I'm like, "Whoa, that sounds so similar." Like they're in the
Mm,
same vein. Like, it's very, very interesting. But
yeah.
I will, like, spoiler, I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of the ones that I've, like, specifically have read about, they all seem very good. Like, they don't
Yes.
seem, like, bad or scary. They all seem like they have good intentions of, like,
Mhm.
hiring humankind, and it's just so
Hiring,
interesting.
not wait. They're not trying to hire.
No, like,
No, I
elevate,
know,
like, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
elevate.
What did I say?
I'm like,
Hire?
wait, they're not trying to hire us, but they are trying to
Hi
hire
they're
us,
trying to lift us, like,
and that's
elevate,
bars, baby.
humankind. Yeah. Higher. I mean, higher, yeah, I guess it's not really how you'd say that. Um, but yeah, like, I just
I
thought
was,
that was really interesting,
mhm.
like, they all seem to have, like,
Yes,
overlapping similarities.
yes. All the groups that we are going through, until we go through groups that aren't, like, are just known to be extremely loving, extremely high frequency, heart centered galactic beings who have connected with Earth for our ascension, for our, yes, like exactly as you're saying, exactly. um and there may be different specific when you really go really really deep into it,
Mhm,
maybe this group has a slightly different like agenda or something like that, but overall all of these groups that we're talking about are working together. They get along well, they all have their uniqueness, and they all respect that in one another,
mhm,
and they are all kind of working together to bring these frequencies, bring these activations, bring these higher levels of consciousness into humanity, and to essentially help our evolution as humans, um, in a very grander scheme of things, as well as, just looking at things day to day. But I think a galactic perspective tends to be a very big perspective, really thinking about things as big cycles, like 100-year cycles, 1,000-year cycles. Like, it can be a very interesting place to look at things from.
yeah, totally. Uh,
So, how did you feel when you were like reading about the Mintakans? Was there any type of like,
I
yeah, like
feel
what were
like
you getting?
there I mean, I feel like there's a lot of things that were very similar as far as, like, having a like, that similar draw to, like, the stars and, like,
Mhm.
Orion's belt and all of that kinda thing. The only thing that I thought was interesting is that and it's not even like I can say that I don't ever like, I never was into it, but it wasn't, like, all my life that I've, like, was into mermaids, like, I went through a
Mm.
couple phases of,
Mhm.
like, when I was a little girl, I loved Little Mermaid, that was one of my favorite movies, like,
Mm. I
just
love that too.
it's such a good movie, um, but, then I grew up and, I think I went through another little short mermaid phase, but, like, yes, I do have a draw to water, but not in the way that I think a Minnetonkan would. Did I say that right? Yeah,
Minitakan. Mhm.
Minnetonkan. Like, I feel like the draw to water isn't as, like, severe or as, like, extreme as, like, they kinda described. So, I found that that was about the only thing for me that I was like, "Oh, well, that's, like, a little different than maybe they Orion didn't really go into that in the one article I read about Orion star seeds." But
Mhm.
I thought that that was really interesting, and I feel like it gives me, like, Atlantis vibes for some reason. Like, when I was reading through it,
Interesting.
I was
Mhm.
like I thought of Atlantis, like, the whole time. I was like, "Hmm, I wonder if that's, like, our
Mm.
closest depiction of what their world would have been like." You know what I
That's
mean?
funny. When I think of Mintaka, I actually like I associate it really strong with Lemuria. I don't know because Lemuria I also associate with mermaids. I feel like, but Atlantis as well, and they say the Mintakans are the original light workers. Like they have been here on Earth for a very very long time.
Oh, yeah, I did think that was really interesting.
And
I was
they
gonna get
so
to
it would
that.
make sense that they have ties to all of these ancient civilizations and would
Mhm,
have had their mark from the very beginning of humanity, um, in those ancient places. So I love that you, like, bring that up that you're like, it does and it gives me I always thought of that too, like, yeah, like, it definitely gives me ancient civilization vibes, and I think that
mhm.
that's just a shows you how it really ties to,
I
the
definitely
past of
felt
us.
like listening to the it just felt very, like, historical, like, there seemed to be a lot more, like, information, like, deeper to it, at least for
Mm,
that one, like, it just felt like it was more, like, the article that I listened to, I guess I should say, like,
mhm,
I felt like it was just there was a lot more of a deeper connection with what they were talking about. Like I think they even like cite
mhm.
like blood types that are typical of that star seed.
Yeah,
And I'm like, what? Like, oh,
yeah.
that's so interesting. And I actually this was the one article that I was reading now that I've been talking about it for a minute. It's coming back to me. Um, this is the one article that I was like, there was a few people that are in my life that came to mind that I was like, hmm.
Mm,
That's interesting because I really feel like they fit s very closely to this.
yes. I love
So
that. I do feel like the more you kinda, like, get to know
y
different energies,
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
will have same way it can be with, like, astrology signs where it's like, you'll just feel the energy of someone be like, that person might be a Pleiadian, like, that person might be" like, that kinda gives me that kind of vibe. Like, it's funny how that does kind of,
Yeah.
like, ends up happening, but yeah, I definitely have a lot of people like that where I'm like, "I wonder if that person's that person. I wonder if that person's like that thing." But I'm not going into their soul records, like, I don't know, I don't, like,
Oh, I would
necessarily go
never.
around telling people, but,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, me neither. Me
but
neither. If it came up,
it's
I
a
would be
way
like, "Oh,
that
interesting, let's talk about
yeah, I mean,
it."
actually, I'm not gonna lie, I've definitely said that to people, I'm like, "I wonder if you are this,"
I think it just depends on the
and
situation. If I really it's one of my best friends, maybe, but if it's like a family member that I'm like, I don't really know how they would do with that information, then,
no, I do
maybe
that
not.
to, like, strangers at the bar, like, strangers at
Oh, yeah,
a
see, that's
party, that's like it's like, "Oh, like, you give me kinda this," and And most people love hearing about that. Like I've asked many people at parties that I just got certain vibes from. I'll be like, oh, like, are you and just like shows, parties, all these different kind of like artistic events, things like that, just things that I'm out and about, but like in a social kind of setting, casual social kind of setting. Like I just ask people like, like, are you an alien? And like, do you know how many times people have been like, yes,
How many times? Can you count it?
most times.
Oh,
I don't
most
know how many
times?
times, but like yes or like no, but I'm really interested. Like tell me more, and I'll be like,
I feel like
you kind of
where
have this
I
kind of energy.
live
You know what I mean?
I feel like where I live, being in the Midwest and it being small town USA, I feel like
Hmm.
I might not get that sort of, response. But,
You don't
when I'm at
know.
my music festival this next week,
Yes, yo, there's
and
going to be
actually,
galactics for
when I go
sure.
to Montana in July,
Uh-huh.
like the beginning of July, that's actually for a festival that's like alien themed. So that will
Ooh.
be the one that will be a fun party trick. Like, hmm,
Yeah.
are you da da
Are
da
you
da?
actually an alien though?
I'm an
Are you
alien.
alien
That's
for
why I'm
real
here.
though? Like everyone's in a like classic alien costume and you just like show up as yourself like, oh. Yeah, I am an alien. Duh.
No, I'll probably just wear like a t-shirt with an alien head on the front. Be like pretty basic about it because why I actually feel like that. I really just don't feel like dressing up. I kind of tried to last year, and I just don't really feel like doing it
Mhm.
this year. I'm gonna go real
Are you like
cash.
supposed to?
Um, I mean, it's a small festival. It wasn't a huge festival. It
Mhm.
was 1 day last year. It's gonna be two days this year. So, but I'm just always excited for anything alien themed, though. Of course. What do you know?
Yeah. Love it.
But how did we get off on that tangent? Where were we?
Okay, so
um,
we're talking about
oh yeah, we were
Mintaka.
talking
So
about Minitakan. Yes, and they're light
yeah, we were just
workers.
talking about how there's people you'll see, and
Oh
they
yeah,
are
yeah,
said to
yeah.
be the original light workers. So one thing about Mintaka is that like Mintaka may be the number one aside from Andromeda that I feel most connected to. And
Mm.
honestly, sometimes I go back and forth between Mintaka and Andromeda, but like Andromeda was the first one that I like really got into, and I really feel like I know I have a deep soul connection there. I know I've had lifetimes in Mintaka, many lifetimes. Like I didn't learn about Mintaka until later in knowing about all this stuff. I think it's not,
Mm.
at least for me, it's not one of those groups that's like super like out there as much. Like there's groups that are just anybody who knows Starseeds would probably know, like, who kind of know generally would know like Pleiadians, like Syrians, Arcturians. I feel like those are like really like Orions, I think, are a big group. But then Mintaka is kind of just like a lesser
Is it
talked about
because
group, I would
because now, and I
say.
don't know if
Mhm.
I don't want to get too far off in the weeds in this, but is that partially because when I'm listening to these things, they kind of talk about like you can be, connected to multiple star seeds because of the different lives that you come in and that
Mhm.
you come in, your soul can come in differently. So,
Mhm.
do you think that that's because Minitaka is one of those older ones? So, like, you would have evolved past that into these other categories that are a little more known because they're maybe a little more younger? And I don't really know if
No,
younger is the word I wanna say, but, like,
no,
do you
like,
get where I'm coming
well,
from,
you
though?
mean like
Like,
on Earth, like,
yeah, like,
so
as far as, like,
you don't mean younger as in the civilization is younger. You mean their contact with Earth is not
yes,
as
like
deep.
like, yes, like, our souls have, like,
Mhm.
our ancestors to Minnetonka are so far back that we don't feel as connected with those ancestors as maybe a Palladian. Do you know what I mean? Like, does it work like that,
No,
like,
I
in
don't
that
feel that
sense?
way. No, I don't feel that way because remember, like, the way that I see it at least is like time, and like time is not linear. So like in the linear history of Earth, like the like Mintakans have been there, but they've been there the whole time, and like I feel like your soul, it's what's more important to me is like your soul, like remembering the energy. Like my soul, one lifetime ago, could have been in Mintaka, and then like you know what I mean? It, like, all right, wait, give me 1 second to
Yeah,
think.
and yeah, I don't know. I feel like this could get us in a different, and maybe this is a conversation that I will need to have to like circle back to once we've like
Yeah.
I have a better understanding of all of the different layers because I feel
Mhm.
like I don't quite have the understanding as you do with like what we were just gonna get to, and I don't know if I would follow you if you started to explain it.
Right. Like I guess the way that I guess for now, like we should just like the way that I see it is basically like all of these groups are involved with humanity, but like some of them may have more star seeds presently on Earth, more people like from that place presently on Earth, and like
Okay. Okay. Wait, no, that makes a lot of sense. That actually kinda answers where I was going with then.
that, yeah, like that's the to
Okay.
me a major thing. And then the other
So, like,
thing is like
maybe
how
there's
involved are they currently? So that kind of does tie to what you were
okay.
saying, where it's like
Okay, so maybe there's
if a
less
group is giving a lot of
Minitalkins,
galactic
like
messages.
right.
Mhm.
So maybe there's less
Yeah, they are a rare
Minitalkins, like,
starseed group.
here right now compared
Yeah,
to some of the other ones that you're talking about.
yeah.
So
Like
it's
I would
kinda
say
like
Mantakas are more rare, lesser
I
people
don't
on
even
Earth
know
are.
why I'm going to this, but it's kinda like
Uh-huh.
Yoda. Like,
I love that
Yoda's
you're going to this. I love that you're going to this. Wait, wait. Stop, 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 stop.
so,
Stop.
like,
Because
is it kinda like that? Like, cause like,
okay.
he's, like, one of the most ancient, like, species. It wasn't like he was the only one, like, there was more of him, but, like,
Yes.
where we know Star Wars and that time of the
Yes.
storyline, there's only
Yes.
one. Okay, okay, that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
that actually under that y I understand now.
Yes, and but it's confusing because you like
It
there's the
is,
dichotomy between like the star seeds who are humans who are
right,
that
yeah,
incarnated, but then there's also those groups who are presently those groups who aren't star seeds. They are just the galactic group that is currently having relations with Earth,
yeah,
and throughout different times of history, they've had relations with Earth. So like, yeah, it is kind of confusing to like
yeah,
think
it's a lot.
about
I mean,
like
it's
all the different
yeah.
things. Yeah.
There's, like, family trees, and then there's people that don't understand half and step, and then there's galactic families, and that's a whole
Mhm.
different tree.
Yeah. So like we can talk about Mintakans of like how is it on that planet and like how so yeah, like let's just get into Mintaka for a little bit. Like
Okay,
what
that's
is the
fine.
vibe of it? Like so I actually love that you brought up Yoda and you brought up Star Wars because a few, I don't know when, but a little while back I had this meditation and then I was like, I don't know, it was so strong that I was like it was just stronger than I ever felt in my life before and I was like, yo, like Star Wars is real and like and I don't mean necessarily that it's a documentary, but like all the things that they are talking about in Star Wars, the same way that there's all these different, like, there's the Wookiees, there's the, you know, the different kind of looking aliens. Like that's how you can literally think about this. It's like there's
Mm,
this planet, there's that planet, like,
yeah. No,
and
I mean,
that's
that's
real.
really yeah,
That's
no,
real.
I think that ultimately, like, I'm not trying to, like, discredit anyone's, like, original thought, but for the most
Mhm.
part, we're being channeled when we have different ideas, and whether
Mhm.
that's coming from your head or coming from somewhere else,
Yep.
there's gonna be things that are revealing of either future things to come or things that have already happened, and people will be like, "Wait, is that this?" And maybe they didn't intend for it to be that, but yes, it is.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Mhm.
I think that Star Wars is something that's very real. I mean, as soon as we started talking about going to Mars, guys, that should be
Mhm.
when that became very real. Like like, I can
Star
already see it.
Wars,
We're gonna have
Star
pods,
Trek.
and we're gonna be able to be like, "Alright, see you in Mars next weekend." Like,
Oh gosh, that's gonna be a whole I have a wh yeah, that's gonna be a whole other
we're gonna
conversation.
get to that,
But
but
yes,
I'm
like
just saying, like,
okay,
it's
so
real.
when
100%.
I like okay, like Alderaan, and then I was also like, yo, like I feel like I was like, I'm a young Padawan, like I'm meditating, I'm doing my Jedi Master skills, like that's kind of what it feels like. And so, anyways, when I first learned about Mintaka, like when it kind of just felt it hit me when I heard that word, I was like, oh, like interesting, like whoa, that sounds like deep. And yeah, like I said, I really do kind of go back and forth sometimes, or I just know that both places, like Andromeda and Mitaka, are two of the most important places from my soul, but I don't know all the specifics. But I just get these vibes from Mitaka, like, okay, you know that scene where Han Solo is like in the snow and he has to cut open that beast
Yeah,
to stay warm.
yeah,
So I know that that is not like the nicest thing to think about, but like not about the cutting open the beast, but like I don't know
right.
that the way that oh, know what? Maybe it is too. Well, the colors of that scene is like to me Mintaka. Like when I thought Mintaka, like I thought back to that scene of Star Wars, and it was very like bam, and
Hmm,
like
okay.
to me, I don't know. Like I feel like there must be parts of Mintaka that are more like water worldy, like yeah, like kind of how Atlantis, the dolphins. But
Yeah,
also, I feel
'cause
like there's icy parts. There's like ice caves, and like
oh,
I
okay.
have this memory from childhood where I was like in real life, we made this snow fort and I was inside the snow fort. And you know how like everything sparkles beautifully in the
Mhm,
snow? And
mhm,
again, like it doesn't even have to, I don't know if it's necessarily from snow on the planet or if it just has that ethereal vibe of like
mhm.
sparkly snow. And I get this light blue color and like periwinkle to me is like mintaka colors. And like the way that fluffy beast was, and this beast that Han Solo was riding, like I'm sorry, I don't know all the names of all the stuff in Star Wars, but like that's like love. Like tell me not. Like he literally gave his life for Han Solo to stay warm. Like there's this deep like love and
Tauntaun.
compassion and like union feeling on Mintaka. Like
Did you hear
a
me?
very sad thing about Mintaka. What?
It's called a tauntaun.
A tauntaun. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Director.
I appreciate that. Yes. So no none of my Star Wars extra aficionados in the crowd is gonna get upset. Please don't get upset.
Listen,
It's a tauntaun. I knew that. I
not to
didn't know it.
burst anyone's bubble, but I'm really into Star Wars for the robots. I'm in it for the robots and all the cute little
Yes.
creatures. That's all I'm
Dun,
in it
dun,
for.
dun.
I don't care about the storyline. You can come at
Yoda.
me and tell me how bad it is. I'm so sorry. I don't care. I love all the little characters. As long as they have the
Yoda and the
robots,
Ewoks
oh, I just
and the
love them
dun
so
dun dun.
much. And little baby Yoda
Yes.
now, like from Mandalorian, like, dude, I'm
I'm
sorry. Like,
obsessed. That's
I'm
my
in it for all
favorite.
that.
I am too, but I'm in it for everything, but I'm in it like I'm with you. Like my favorite, like I love the Ewoks. And also like to me, like that woodiness, like the Alderaan, just to do a quick side note too, because we got into the Star Wars
We got to,
conversation.
sorry.
But
Go ahead.
like to me, like Alderaan is like it does remind me of Andromeda, and I'm like they both start with A, and like Andromeda has like these trees. It's like no like a lot of eco like type of vibes, and like a lot of the message from the Andromedans is like union and harmony with nature, and so they have these like beautiful ancient trees, kind of like how they have in like Avatar, and so like I don't know, it's just funny because it was just during that meditation I just related all these things, and I'm like, oh wait, that's like that, that's like that, that's like how Star Wars is, but
So
yeah.
I feel like though, like if it's like a water planet, though, like
Mhm.
they probably still have seasons. So they could go from water to
Mhm.
ice. So it's
Well,
not
because
even
ice is water, yeah, like, I feel
right,
like,
right.
yeah.
So it's not even
Mhm.
necessarily that there's different parts of the planet. It could just be different seasons that you are like seeing in your meditation.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
True. True, it could be
Because
both.
could you imagine like a water world
Mhm.
like it would freeze like it would probably be like go from one type of beautiful to a whole nother type of beautiful because I don't know if you've ever gone for a hike in the winter. Like yes, it's cold. If you can get past it, a hike in the winter is just a different
Yes.
ethereal
Yes.
vibe because one,
Yes.
if you get the glittery snow, that's another thing. But if you can
Magic.
get that heavy, sticky, like wet snow that kind of like hangs, but it hangs in just only the way it came, you can see it literally like outlines trees and bushes and
Yes.
it's the most
The
one of the
light,
most
it's so much
beautiful
light
things
reflecting
ever.
everything.
And I can't even believe that I am gushing like that because I used to hate winter, but this past winter I like fell in love. I don't know why it took me to 31,
Mm.
but so
No,
I'm
because
just saying,
snow can be trash, and that's why I fuck with
yeah,
Mintaka though too, because
it's
like
all
on
water.
Mintaka, it's a higher dimensional though water, so it's like it's water, but it's not dense like our water. It's like it's
It's
like the way
light.
that we feel in air is like how you would feel in water, but like you can like it's just a light. It's
It's
literally a
l
less dense
yeah,
liquid. Like
yeah.
that's the water on the planet, and like
It
everything
sounded
is
like
just
you could
so
breathe in it. Like it
ethereal. Yes. Well, like
yeah, it
you
was
would I think I read
it's
that
like
you would like
weird.
you could be under the water for like 3 days, and then like kind of go because there's people from Antaka who are like mermaids,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, so they'll but like kind of the way a lot of sea creatures here will it's like they'll be mammals, but they can stand underwater for days, but then they just have to come out for a little bit of air, like sometimes. But it's interesting,
Sometimes.
but it's still not air like how we have air. It's still not water
Yeah,
like how we
yeah,
have water.
it's
It's still not
different.
like
It's
it's so
different.
weird. It is kind of very dreamy, but very like it's just so bright. Like it's so bright, and it's like one of the most positively oriented groups that I think I have read about because they are just so like they only had good. Like it's like a lot of Mintakans can't understand the concept of bad because on their home planet, which unfortunately has been destroyed, it's it's like such union, such balance, such harmony. Everybody feels as one. Like it's like only love. They don't experience necessarily like a lot of polarity outside of that, especially not
Yeah,
interpersonally, you know?
yeah. Yeah, and what's funny is it wasn't until I was much older till I really saw anything where mermaids were ever depicted as mean. Like they were always just very like whimsical and like, kind of
Mm,
like fairies. Like fairies have always been very whimsical and like light
mm,
and like I don't really feel like it wasn't until I was much older till I like saw a different version of
mm.
fairies. Like, you know what I mean?
I
Um
I part of me feels like that's like propaganda, like fairy
oh yeah, I know,
propaganda
me
and
too,
like
me
mermaid
too.
propaganda. Like,
Me too.
yeah,
I
because
feel
I
like
think it
they do
just
it
leaves
with
out the
anything
shadow
with
side.
witches
Yeah.
and psychics
Yes.
and just like they do it
Like,
with
this is what a
everything.
fairy is, and this is what it
Yeah.
is, and it's like, we can appreciate that what it is, and fairies are like that, but then fairies also are, like, very have
I
a
mean,
very
there's
dark side. They can be very mischievous, they can be very, like, they're not
as much as I would
necessarily,
love
like
to think that the world is
yeah.
all love and light, there's always gonna be like there's always
Mhm.
a dud seed. Like if you buy a package of seeds, there's always a seed that doesn't bloom. Like it's
Hmm.
not like a bad thing.
Mm.
It just
Poetic.
happens.
That was
Like
so poetic.
yeah, it was a
Oof.
little poetic. Didn't mean for it to be.
Oof. We were watching my girl bloom before our eyes. You heard that?
I
That
say shit
poetry
like
right
that all the time. I am a poet, I just don't
there.
know it, and I don't write about it.
See, but now all you have to do is just listen back to the pod, and there you
Oh,
go.
yeah,
That's your poetry.
anyone
You don't even
go
have to
ahead
write
and
it
make
down now.
somebody wanna make me fan art with that quote on it, that'd be great. We'll just start collecting fan art. You can contact our email, and I'll give you an address. But yeah, like
Oh my
I
gosh.
feel like everything that was it did feel very light and happy and like it really
Mhm.
did sound like honestly I would like to go on vacation there.
Like a
Like
utopia. It feels like a
yes.
utopia, but, like, not a weird I don't know, I feel like a lot of times utopia is almost like utopia is dystopia because it's almost weird to think of a world that's, like, has no duality, like,
Right.
that's almost that in itself is almost, like, feels wrong to me because it's like there it's like you're not supposed to be only one
Yeah.
thing, but it's not to say that there's no duality there, but I think that it's just it was just such a high level
It's
of
like
positivity that the natural balance of it was just
it's like when you had like a really good life and you're in retirement. Like you're just
Yeah.
like at ease. Like that's kind of the vibe I was getting when I was
Yes.
listening to it. Like
Yes.
they've gone past all that. Like they don't really care about
Mhm.
all that petty stuff anymore. They're just
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and
But
then
yeah,
they're the ones who got blown up, so that's sad. That
isn't it
really sucks, yo.
really sucks, yeah.
Another
This
freaking way that, Star Wars is real, cause that Death Star shit is fucking real, my guy.
for real. Um yeah, but this article that I'll link like literally has so much information for specifically this Starseed and
Yeah, you
it's a
got a
good
detailed
jumping off point.
article.
I feel like this is a
Yes.
great article and it kind of
Yeah.
went into some of the um you know this the hor what am I saying? The astrology signs that are most related to it, which I just thought I would shout out really quick,
Mhm.
which was Aquarius, Leo, and Scorpio, which all three of those
Ooh.
Aquarius made sense to me, but the Leo and Scorpio kind of surprised me. I because my son's a
Yeah.
Leo, but
Yes.
it's like interesting, like because Leo's like so fire and like like I just didn't I was
Mhm.
expecting more of the water signs to be what would be presented there.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was kinda like, "Oh,
I
interesting."
wonder if it's also, like, the positive orientation of it, and, like,
Yeah.
also well, this is the other thing I wanna say though too is, like, I feel like more than, like, what an article is telling you,
Oh, yeah.
this is what this blood t and we know this, but just I really feel this so strongly because I think so many people get very caught up and they're like, "I don't know if I am this one," like, I feel like I have a connection to this type of starseed, but when I read these articles, I don't resonate with it because a lot of people just are writing these articles that are very big generalizations and, like, you really do like, I want everybody to trust yourself if you feel like you have a connection with a certain group and, like because it wasn't really until later that I found, like, actual people from Andromeda who would, like, channel messages and stuff that I really resonated with, that I was like,
Mm.
"Oh," because a lot of there's just certain things out there that I'm like, I resonate with it, but not to, like, the point of certain things, but that doesn't mean that I'm not Andromedan or that, I don't
Right.
have that connection. It just means that what they're putting out there is not, like,
Yeah.
trust yourself first, it's just not
Yeah.
for me, it's just not the way that I am, but
Right.
that doesn't mean that I don't have that connection.
Yes, I think that's a good disclaimer. Because I think people read into like horoscopes sometimes too much because
Mhm.
of their astrology and they're like, this is exact like I can't do anything. I mean, and it's with everything. Like, I mean, I was just saying that before I think we started the episode talking about Mercury retrograde. Like, just different things. Like if you don't put too much gravity in different things,
Yeah.
it won't affect you nearly as much as if you do
Mhm.
intend for it to
Mhm.
be all that. So, like, if something
Right, don't
resonates
let
with
that shit
you
dictate you.
right, if
You
something resonates
dictate
with
what it
you,
means
it
to
resonates
you.
with you. If it doesn't resonate with you,
Mhm.
leave it, move on. It resonates with somebody else that's
Mhm.
supposed to read that. Absolutely. I
Exactly.
100% agree with that. And
Exactly.
I read all these articles in that same vein. And so, like, even
Mhm.
though it sounds like because I would probably sound very much like I'm citing these sources, but it's just because
Mhm.
I'm not as familiar. So I like to like at least know a little bit and kind of say stuff, but I also
Yeah.
take everything with just like a they probably mean that exactly, but maybe that's not it, and I don't resonate with that, so it is what it is, like, very much.
Right. Yeah, and like, yeah, I mean, because I'm the same way. Like, I think a lot of the information that I say is like, I read this somewhere. I'm not channeling all this information directly from these galactic groups. I'm not,
Yeah,
I'm also synthesizing my own versions of this information. Like, as far as the
right.
Mintakans being the first light workers, like that could have been what somebody said, and somebody else said, like, you know, if something isn't resonating with you or something else resonates more, like go with that. Like
Yeah,
I'm
right.
also kind of just bringing we're really just introducing these groups and
Yeah.
kind of bringing up the different informations. So use this with our information too. Like don't take what we're saying as like, oh, this must be what it's like. You know what I mean? Because it's like
Or
no,
drop us
it's just happening.
articles and we'll read those because if you got
Yeah.
other information, we would love to know it. Like, I would love to
Articles
learn
and
more.
like your own feelings about it. Like,
Yes,
how do
all of
you feel
it.
when you hear about Mintak? Yo, if I like to our listeners, like if you would love to respond to us and say how any of these different groups, when we're talking about them and you're tuning into the energy through that, like tell us how that makes you feel. If you're feeling the vibes that we're putting out, if you're like, no, this group is maybe more like that, like let us know. You can email us at
Yeah.
cosmiconnect.frenchieblu@gmail.com.
Yes.
We would love to hear from you. We would love to hear
Yes.
from you.
Or DM any of us, like, on our
Yes, DM
Cosmic
us,
Connect. Yes, I would love all
all the
that.
comments. Yes, like let us know if there's
Or on
topics you want us to
YouTube,
cover
that's where you can,
more.
like, chat too.
YouTube comments.
Yes. There's so
Um,
many ways. There's so many ways
so
to
many
connect with
ways.
us.
We're so available. We're so available. We made ourselves so available to you. So it's gonna touch, you know?
Yeah. Um, which one do, like, you think is similar to Minnetonkan out of the other 2 M's?
No. Neither. I think the other 2 M's are similar to each other.
Oh, yeah, you think they're similar to each other?
I
Yeah.
think they have maybe ties to Orion as a whole, but, like, again, like,
Yeah.
Orion
I feel like
has a
they're
lot of
similar.
duality, but Mintaka is just it
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
have any of those vibes to
I
me.
agree. I feel like the things that are similar are, like, the fact that they are here for good, like, they're not here for anything
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah,
Like,
like,
they're very
again, yeah.
honest was a thing that came up for both of them.
Mhm.
Like, they're both
Mhm.
very honest, um,
Mhm.
empathetic, and, like, passionate, like, those are similar traits, but I feel like that
Yeah.
those are repetitive traits that you'll find in almost all
That's
of the
pretty much
star
all.
seeds.
All star seeds
Yeah.
are very tend to be very empathic, very, like,
Another one that they always
well-meaning,
seem to mention
well-loving
in
people. Mhm.
yeah, the other thing they always seem to mention in all of the articles is, like, "If you feel like you're not from this planet," like
Right, like, you've always
like,
had a sense.
way to be specific on this particular thing.
Yeah. I mean, it is, but it is hard to talk about it because, like, again, I feel like everybody experiences their specific starseed experience so differently, so
Yeah,
I honestly, like, think it's amazing that they have these articles, but because it's like you can get pretty specific, but then that's really only talking to a small group. But you kind of have to be very general to be like, you kind of always had this feeling. It's like that's what kind of unites us all. But then, you
yeah,
know, it gets
yeah,
tough. It gets tough. It's
it gets
tough to
tough.
like try and talk about all this stuff and try to categorize all these things because really,
Yeah,
to me,
I'm
it's
in
like
no way, like, wanna categorize them.
no,
Like, I
no,
don't think you
well, I mean, we
can.
are they are categorized. I think they want to be categorized in a certain way, like, because
Oh,
we do
oh,
wanna
yeah.
differentiate between
Yeah,
them,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but,
yeah.
like, I guess we don't wanna, I guess we can talk about the groups as different things, but overall, yeah, like, they're all,
Yeah, they're all
you
different.
know they w we don't also don't wanna, like the same way you can stereotype groups on Earth.
Oh,
Like,
right,
it
yeah.
to understand it from when you're just being introduced to these beings, to these different groups, like, it can be helpful to get this broad overview of this is what it's like in general, but, like, the same way that stereotypes are on Earth, like, it's just not gonna talk about everybody in a certain group. Like it's just not possible. It's
Yeah,
not possible because every being is so different, you
yeah.
know. But there's so I guess there's always levels to it. There's just levels to it. Like some we go from the very broads, and they're always like you look at the stars
And you
and have
long
a
for it.
you feel like home when you look at yeah like um oh know what else too that I wanted to also say is like because I know you always said like when you looked at Orion's belt and like I don't know and again I'm not the best at knowing if it's the Big Dipper or the Little Dipper but back when I would go into like the backyard of where I used to live every single night and I would look up and that was also the exact like constellation and kind of like stars that would often feel like it was just right there, like the exact way that my chair faced, where the trees were open and I could actually see the stars, which is not always easy in the middle of Brooklyn, but I would see those stars and I would be like, it was just that was just the one that I always recognized. I was always there. So yeah, I just think that's cool.
It
And I
is
wonder,
cool.
do you wonder if Mintaka is where we know each other from? If like that's on Orion, and I feel like I've been from there before, and like both kind of had mermaidy
Like,
vibes. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I'm curious, like, what, like, I'm curious how they're like so closely related. Like, obviously, their world being in the Orion's belt, like, were there other planets there that like is the general for the Orion star seeds, like, or is that a specific planet, Orion? And if those
That's
planets,
the
are they
information
next
that
to
I
each other?
want.
Yeah,
That's
like
the like
if they're
they
next
don't
to each other,
say.
are they
Mhm.
similar planets or are they different planets and they like visited each other because they were different types of planets, you know what I mean? Like they had different
Well,
types
and
of
is it?
resources.
It's interesting because then I'm also like, but if we're also talking interdimensionally, like travel doesn't mean necessarily mean the same thing to them as it does to us. So it could be like a larger Orion consciousness that is one consciousness, but then a subset of it is like Mintaka.
I feel like
You know what
I
I
don't
mean?
know. I don't know
Like
because
there's
like
the United States and then there's New York.
yeah, yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but I'm saying like I feel like Minitakan is like more ancient than that. So I feel like they would be the and Orion would be
No, no, no,
smaller, I
no,
feel
because
like.
when we're talking ancient, we mean like on Earth, but when I'm talking about like Mintaka is not more ancient than Orion galactically, but
Oh.
Mintaka had contact earlier in humanity's history because the galactic time is not the same as like Earth time, space time, because they're in higher dimensions outside of linear space time.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Yes,
I
no,
mean,
because I know that Mintaka is in Orion. It's not, or like it's a part of the larger Orion like constellation, and there may be one planet that's more known as Orion. Like
yeah, that's
again,
what
I don't
I'm
know, but like
saying
it could be
though.
like
Like I
New
think
York,
we're saying
like how
I think
there's
we're
like
talking
New
about
York,
different
New
things.
York. Yeah,
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 it's like
yeah.
how there's New York, New York, and
Right.
then it's like Orion, Orion, and then
Yeah.
there's like Long Island, New York is like Mintaka, Orion.
Right. I guess I get what you're saying. I don't
But
know.
I don't know. They don't always say like they're not
Hmm.
very specific about how exactly. And this is the thing that I almost get frustrated sometimes because I look up and I'm like, I want to know more. Like I want to,
Yeah, and I don't
you know what
know.
I mean?
Yeah, I feel like they don't get into that much because like everything seems so surface. Like Maldekians are the most creative souls that are excellent at brainstorming sessions. They're deep and profound
Mhm.
understanding. Like it's just unique sense of
Right.
humor.
And
Like they're
well,
just very like just characteristics which are great, but like as far as like getting
yes.
into like the history of like I feel
Yeah,
like
and this
that's
is,
where
like, I
things
guess
get harder to find.
yes, because, like, we're looking up starseed traits of people from here, and then it's like exactly, and then it's like, but that's not telling you that is more like general, this is the personality of the people that we know, but I guess we don't really even know everything about Earth's history, so it would be a lot
Yeah.
to ask for us to know, I guess a lot of this is channeled information,
Yeah, right.
so
Right.
there are places where they channel this information, but I guess people can observe star seeds, and I guess it could also be like our own research that we can just research more into the actual
Yeah,
zero
yeah,
round.
we'll
But
totally
from
get into
my,
it.
I do feel like it's deep research though, because from my understanding, I have wanted to kind of know more, but it doesn't feel like a lot of that aspect of it is readily available. Like a lot of this
Yeah.
information is still, I think, pretty new to
Yeah, yeah.
humanity. It's still like I think there's just so much more deeper to go into all of this information that we don't necessarily know, but
Yeah.
I'm
It's
excited to learn
all
more.
very, very interesting though. Like, all very, very
Mhm.
interesting.
Mhm.
What
Yes,
do
and
you
it's
what do you know
mhm.
about I forget which one, was it Maldekian that you've actually channeled
So
before?
no, Mintakan I have channeled before. I
Oh,
definitely have.
Minitakan you've channeled before.
Yeah, so again, like I have a big connection with Mintaka. Like the other two groups that we're talking about is Martians and Maldekians, and those I don't feel like so much of a personal connection with it. It's more recently that I, learn more about like starseeds being from there. So yeah, Mintakan, I feel like I have a connection with. So I have a lot of like I've had time. I often like have this flashback to me as a kid, like swimming and, but not like swimming like human swimming, like like swimming like that.
Oh, okay.
Like a mermaid kind of, like you're just,
Yeah.
and like feeling the water swish over me, and like feeling very free in that moment, and that's just like a very small moment, and I don't know, like that to me is Mintaka, and that like their light language is very like it sounds kind of like that. It's like can be,
Mm.
I mean, all light language is variable, but a lot of Mintakan light language, it's very like, yes, it's very light, it's very loving, and it can be like tico tico tico, like tico, like it's kind of
Okay.
fun, but they
Yeah,
can
yeah,
also do like a lot of like like fast little like like, and like this is just my example of kind of what it sounds like, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like Andromedan can kind of sound a little bit like that too sometimes. So the two energies are really like very, I don't know,
Mm.
close within me at least. But
Yeah.
it's a very loving, like they're very like, but it's like you know what I mean? Like that's
Mhm.
Mintaka. But I have never channeled light language from Maldekians. I have never channeled light language from Martians. They have a very like different vibe to me that I kind of more recently have been learning more about. But it wasn't one of the first star seeds that I'm like, I don't know the most about them. Um, what did you think when you're like going into Mars and Maldekians?
I feel like Maldekians are
Mhm.
like an elder. Like I get like elder vibes, like because they
Oh.
say like deep, profound understanding of their inner reality, unique sense of humor,
Mm.
tune into cosmos and space, natural born teachers, therapist, healer, a deep understanding of the law and of karma. Like those bullet points right there. And there's a few more, but those bullet points right there were the ones that I was like, oh, like think about every like teacher that you've ever met, like really good teachers,
Mm.
not like the crappy ones, the really good teachers. They always had
Mhm.
like weird sense of humors. Like they would crack a joke and they would think
Mm.
it's funny and no one else is laughing. Like
Like the
because
dad joke.
they're so yeah, well, not even necessarily dad jokes, like, just, like, they're so smart, like, if you were on their
Mm.
level, it would be actually funny, but because you're not on their level, it's not funny because it just
That's my
doesn't
brother,
hit.
and he's a teacher. He's a math teacher.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I just
Yeah.
feel like, I just think of, like and I actually the few people that I'm thinking of aren't even necessarily teachers, but, just, like, always profound wisdom, like, maybe even a
Mm.
little bit of that Yoda flashback to that for a second. Not
Mm.
necessarily for the same reasons, different reasons, but, like, just, like, that very wise soul. Like, I don't know why I got that vibe, but that's what I was getting the whole time when I was listening to them.
Interesting. I like that. I definitely get like wise soul from a few groups, but I can definitely see that like for the Maldekians and like, yeah, like, okay, so I do feel like Maldek and Mars are very like, they're very connected. So the way that they're connected is basically that Maldek was basically used to be a planet that was in our solar system, and that planet was intentionally blown up, I think, by the planet itself. Like they ended up kind of blowing themselves up in like a nuclear bomb type of situation. Like they just blew up their own planet. Kind of like what, but you're like, how? But then it's like, look at Earth and you can see how that could potentially happen. You know what I mean? So
No wonder why they're trying to come here
happened.
and help us, stop us from doing that.
And it's a deep trauma that, and like not all Maldekians were incarnated in Maldek during that time, but there are souls on Earth who experienced their planet exploding, and that the trauma from that collision actually affected Mars, and also like, so what is currently known as the asteroid belt is actually like all the pieces of Maldek that were,
oh wow,
obliterated essentially, and all like the radiation from that affected Mars, and so there used to be civilizations on Mars, but the impact of that planetary explosion like fucked up Mars, so that the Martians had to actually come and incarnate on Earth essentially. So Martians have been on Earth. There's like, and I believe this is genetically as well, like for a very, 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 very long time in human history.
I just got the chills. So
whew.
I was holding the alien crystal at the time, but I think the chills was because of what you were saying, not because of holding that. So just putting it out there. Ooh.
Yes.
That felt like they had their hand on my shoulder. Like, that was wild. Okay. Sorry.
Oh, like
that kind of took my brain right out of what we were talking about.
But yeah, so that's like the history that I know. Oh my gosh,
sad.
wait. Can I say though, like my earthly association that I know that reminds me of Maldek?
Yeah.
Is okay. No, it's crazy again because we're talking about Star Wars, but there's not just Star Wars. All right, so
I was literally just about to say this is so weird that Star Wars just keeps coming up, because that's what keeps coming up in my brain right now, because you talked about how it blew up and that they literally do that in Star Wars, and so like
they do. Yes. So there's that, but do you know the show Alf, Alien Life Form? It's like an older show, I think from like the 80s maybe, and he's like the little fluffy guy. He's like kind of like it's a
you
sitcom,
guys were talking
but it's
about
alien.
this, I think, in like, were you guys someone talking about this in the Discord?
Probably because I mean, I love it.
Okay, I don't
I
think
used to watch that with my uncle all the time.
I don't think I have seen it, but I think I know what you're talking about. Like,
should I pull up the image real quick? Let me pull up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Alf real quick.
So or you can send it to me and I could throw it in the video. Either one. So if it doesn't show up very well.
Yeah, we'll just we'll no, because I want to show you now, and you can edit that out and put it in the video or however you want to do it.
Yeah,
but I want to show you Alf.
I wish I could control it a little better.
When I was growing up, my uncle Bob used to always babysit me and my 3 siblings, and what we would watch every single week for like quite a time period when I was younger was we would watch Star Wars episodes, like 4 or 5 or 6. The first ones that were like filmed. We would watch those every week, and then like a little bit later on, we would watch Alf all the time. And now, like looking back, I'm like, that's crazy because I feel like Uncle Bob is totally like a starseed. He has definitely had a lot of like spiritual like experience And just like things like that. And so it's funny that as kids, like we would always watch Star Wars with him and Alf, who is an alien. Alf stands for alien life form, and it's just like a sitcom, and like this little alien guy is Alf.
Oh,
So
yes. Okay. Yeah, I've
yes,
seen that.
so
I've seen
I
that.
bring
Yes,
this
I've
up
seen that.
because in Alf, and I like, who knows what the creators of Alf knew or were getting at, but in Alf, he basically comes to Earth. He crashes into the family's roof, and that is how the like premise of the show starts. They find an alien in their garage, and then he starts to live with them and hide from them so that he doesn't get got by the government. But basically, Alf is there, and he's like was escaping his planet called Melmac that had exploded, so he was coming to Earth. And I just got chills when I said that. So I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Alf is
Well, now
about
I'm
Maldek. He's from Maldek. And that shit is real. And it was just
yeah.
many of real stories are portrayed to us through films and through storytelling. Like this is throughout human history, storytelling and mythology and like all of these sacred texts. Like it's all telling us these things in like different ways, in these scripted ways. It's this collective subconscious like reaching humanity. Like we all connect to these
Yeah.
things because a part of us knows that it's true. Like with Star Wars, with Star Trek, with Alf, and with all these things. And like yeah, so I don't know, that's like the biggest thing that I just think of when I think of Maldek. And
Wow, I really
he's
need
a
to
bit of a
watch that.
goofball, and
Is
I
that
don't
what's
know.
that? Is that like Disney or is that like what is
No, it's,
what is
I mean,
that?
it's just an
I'm gonna have to
old
look it up and see if I can
TV
find it
show.
because I
It's
need to
just an
watch
old
it.
TV show. Yeah, like
I need to
it's
watch
just a
it
funny
because I think I have
sitcom.
watched
Like
that. I have watched that
yes,
though because once you showed me the picture, like I have watched that. I just it was so long ago. I just don't remember. Like I would have watched it as a
mhm,
kid, like kid,
mhm.
and I've blocked out so much of my childhood. So I will have to watch that again to jog my memory because I feel like I've totally watched that before, and it's right up my alley, obviously.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, it's just totally like a silly 80s
Silly
kind of
sitcom.
era
Yeah,
sitcom. And they're just
love
like,
that.
Alf is just a silly alien guy, and he loves like rock and roll, and his girlfriend Bronza, he misses his girlfriend Bronza. And like, so it's just it's like he's Alf, like he wants to eat cats. I don't know. He like,
He
they
wants to
eat
eat
cats on his
cats.
planet.
Oh my
So he's always
god!
trying to go like eat the cat, but it's just a joke within the sitcom. Like I don't know, there's
Wow.
a lot of random things. I don't know if those things necessarily correlate to
But that
Maldekians,
sounds
but
like freaking a
you know.
Maldekian. You just
It
literally
does,
described a
right?
Maldekian. Like he has a weird sense of humor. Like
Yes,
goofball. Like
he's a
come
little
on.
silly,
Like
like a goofball. Like
wow.
like yes, and so that's like a strong association. That's just what I think of when I think of Maldek. Is like yeah, it's like Alf, and literally he's from Melmac, like in the show. So I really think that that was intentionally done. But either way, I think that Maldekian is awesome, and I'm so sorry that your planet blew up. I think as
Yeah.
a person who
It's
has been to Minitaka, I
horrible.
can relate. What's up?
It's so horrible. And at that point it really is kind of bothersome that we don't acknowledge some of these things because we could be learning from them instead of repeating what they did themselves.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. And maybe that's why we're not told about it.
oh, surely. I mean, knowledge is power, and if we don't let people have the knowledge, then they have the power,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Yeah. If you can control the people's consciousness and people's beliefs,
mhm.
then you
Yeah.
can control everything. Because
Yeah.
if you can control people's projected realities and create what they are feeding themselves, then that is going to manifest in their external realities, and that it happens on a collective level.
Yeah.
And having people thinking and bringing these other things into the light, it's having a very positive, big frequency impact on Earth.
Yeah.
And it's really It's a crazy time to be alive.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of shit happening.
Yeah, it
On a
really
lot of
is.
levels. It really, really is. So, oof,
Yeah, really, really is.
you know, there is a lot of weight to all this as well, I would say.
Wow. And to think like their planet affected another planet. So it's like it's not even like
Mm-hmm.
we are negating what all this will affect. Like it's like kind of like what I was saying before. It's just like our disillusion to them existing is ultimately holding us back because we're too self-righteous to admit that there's more life outside of us that we could be learning from. And if we keep continuing on without doing that, we're going to affect the next planet, which is ultimately what Maldek did to the Martian Starseed. Like,
And not just
obviously that wasn't
Martian,
their
like,
intention. I'm sure that wasn't their intention, but they were
mm-hmm.
probably caught up in their own shit
Mm-hmm.
that they didn't see how that would affect the next planet, you know? Well, and yes, not ultimately it
Well,
continues on, but I'm just saying like that
right.
was a
Well,
pretty
yeah, I mean
close,
that it
domino.
impacted the whole, yeah, like it impacted the whole solar system. It like
Yeah.
it hugely impacted Mars because it was right there, but like I mean, we got affected from that. Like we get hit by asteroids from that, so who knows how that if that caused one of the mass extinctions
Right.
within our history as a planet and still is to this day because we still have I mean, we're literally just rocks flying through the fucking sky and there's other rocks
Yeah.
flying through the fucking sky.
Yeah.
Sometimes they hit
We
each
were
other.
watching. Yeah. Right. We were watching or Jeremy was telling me this fact that there's and I'm going to butcher it and he's probably going to have to correct me, but there's some shuttle that they have like sent off into the solar system like back in the 70s and it's still going and they still have communication with it and it's just still going in that direction away from planet Earth and they still can radio signal to it, but it's like I forget how many years he said, like 40 something years away. How many light years that is? Like I mean 14
14
billion miles.
billion miles.
14 billion miles away, and it can still radio signal to it. And I
Well,
still have a
here's the
dead zone
thing.
just down the street from my apartment. What the hell? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean
But
it's literally called space. But
but
that's the thing is like space is not the same as we experience
no.
space on Earth. Like it's really not. It's like it really is a whole huge thing to try to explain.
Yeah,
But
I don't
like
think we
I
can
mean a
explain
light
that.
year but no, but know what really actually popped in my head as you were saying that and it, it, it was just like space is not out there though. Space is in here. But it's both, but
But
like
that's because we are that. We are literally the same
exactly. Space is
matter.
in
Like
there. Yes,
yeah,
space
we're
is
all
in
the
here.
same. It's energy. Like
You have the entire universe within you, baby.
yeah, I love that meme that you see every once in a while where it's like you're
Mm,
the head and then like space is like coming out of it. Like I love
yes.
that imagery. Like it's one of my favorites when I come across it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
so good. So good. But the Martians, you sent me a message right before we started that's like you started you cracked up
Oh,
laughing at the Martian one.
this was just comedy to me because okay, because you know we're like they have all these articles online and stuff that's like this is what a Martian is starseed is like. Oh, and also yeah, like it really is a huge differentiation though of saying like if you're saying a Martian starseed, that means somebody on Earth incarnated on Earth. So we are kind of talking about an Earth person who is incarnated, who had a previous incarnation from Mars. But then there's also like Martians as a consciousness group and Martians as a, you know, not starseeds, but just the external galactic group that's not necessarily starseeds. That's how it is with all of them. What?
My brain's just like, what? I what? Explain that one more time.
A starseed is not this. So if you're talking about Orion or if you're talking about Andromeda, that is a place. So there's an entire group of Andromedans who are external to Earth, but then there's starseeds who are some beings who have been from those places who are currently incarnated on Earth. So like when we read these articles, they're talking about starseeds as in beings from this other place who are incarnated on Earth. So it's going to have some traits of like what the beings are like on that planet, but it's actually talking about human traits.
Right.
Then there's the external galactic like place and family of like how things are like, and so the two things are related, but it's not the same. So if I'm talking about Mars and Martians, I'm not necessarily talking about Martian star seeds, but we can also be talking about traits of Martian star seeds.
But
so it's just a differentiation from different times.
Yes, I do understand. I do follow you now. Okay, but wouldn't starseeds, wouldn't they carry like human characteristics as well as Martian characteristics? Maybe they're being depicted in our human understanding, but ultimately they might still have similarities of Martian, the external form.
Yes. It's like
do you get what I'm
it's
saying?
basically
Like,
how, yeah, like it's how,
like
of
it's
course
like
the
it's
energy
like
is
when you
related.
have
It's
like,
like how that energy expresses in a human experience.
yes,
That's what
yes,
Starseed is talking
yeah.
about.
It's kind of just
Exactly.
like when we have like a Italian and a Spaniard mix. You could carry Italian traits and Spaniard traits, but you're one.
Or
Similarly,
like you're more like you lived in Italy, but then you emigrate to the US, and so you pick up characteristics of the US, but you still have all these Italian traits that you brought with you from your time in Italy.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Because it's an incarnation cycle. So it's like I was here, but I'm bringing that energy through to me here. Like, that's how I see it. Yeah. But then there's like what you're talking about exists, but that's like what to me what a hybrid is. Like that's somebody who's part this thing and part that thing. But Starseed is to me is talking about like the human incarnation of.
I think I agree with you, but I think I would expand it and be like that person that traveled from Italy to America, their next child.
Yes.
Do you get what I'm
can
saying?
Be both.
I think
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think it can be
both.
both, but I think that I would say more in what I was trying to say with my original thought. I think it would be the kid in your version of what I was trying to say. But that's
right. Yeah, I think both. Yeah, like both things exist. Like both things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
I think I understood it differently, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. I lost an earbud, but yeah, I think I understand what you were saying now. So Martian starseeds would be the human form here of that.
And a lot of those traits are traits of Martians, like literally Martian external. But if we're saying starseed, we mean human, like incarnation of it. But then there's also like if we're going into the history of the planet and all that, that's not talking about the history of that particular starseed. It's just talking about the general group, And some starseeds may have been present for this time, others may not have been.
Yeah. the thing that you sent me that you were like cracking up laughing about though was that they're
Oh
not
my
red.
gosh. Yeah, which is actually funny. I mean, I think a lot of people do associate Mars with red. It's a red looking planet. But I just thought that was so funny that you have all these like, this is what their personality is like, this is what their that is like, and then it just goes to, are they red? And it's like, no, Martians are not red. They may have
Oh,
like
well,
red freckles
it's
or
their
red hair.
frequently asked questions section.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
just thought that was really funny. Like, are they red?
Yeah. I did
And
think
they're
it
like,
was
no, they're not
interesting that they depict like Martians being redheads. Like there like a lot
red.
of redheads being associated with Martians, like starseeds. I thought that was interesting, like just because they have red hair, like because and also
Yeah,
was their planet red when they inhabited it, or is that a side effect of it being,
of the
you know,
radiation.
from
I don't know.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like so like I don't even know
We
if
don't
we can
know.
really even make assumptions that it's red.
Right. And maybe maybe a Martian on Mars is red, but that doesn't mean that a star seed is gonna be a human with red who is like, you know what I mean? Who is like
I think they kind of like to, and I'm saying they as like a figurative they of anyone that makes assumptions of different star seeds and writes articles like this. I feel like all of them kind of like mention different birthmarks that will show up that are coordinated with this star seed or that star seed.
mm-hmm.
So I think what they're like trying to portray there is kind of like um
How that energy can express in a human is like red hair,
like your
freckles, like
genetic,
yeah.
like
Yes.
like oh they're red here, so like it came in through the human form as red hair and freckles
Mm-hmm.
and like I feel like that's where they're trying to get with that, but I feel like that's
Yeah. It's
probably
I
not
think it's
exclusive to
no,
redheads
it's
and people
definitely
with
like
freckles for sure.
well, and what that mean like it to me things like when they go into things like that again that it's like so specific, it's like not every star seed from this place is going to have that human characteristic and not every human with that characteristic is
Right.
that star seed. It's like
Yeah.
it's just like a lot of these descriptions are like it could be this if you have this like these are different
Right.
possibilities that if you're resonating with this or this like this can be a thing, but yeah, like the same way you would with any stereotype, it's like some people from this thing are kind of like this, but that's not but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean, you know, it's still so general and just, you know,
Right.
it's hard to but yeah, I mean I definitely get red energy from Mars though, like no doubt. Like it definitely was
Yeah.
known as a war society. I get Sparta vibes, like this is Sparta. Like that to me is
Oh,
Mars.
okay. I could see
But then we
that.
also have Martian kind of to me Martian is also that like I think that they maybe have a certain structure. I feel like people from Mars or like maybe people with Martian energy it can be like a lot of structure, maybe kind of, you know, have a lot of more like physicality to them, but like I also get a very peaceful vibe from the idea of Martian. Like Martian does also it feels very positive as well, but they are
Mm.
also known as being like having, you know, like a warrior society and like, you know, kind of similar to Orion, but to me it just has a different energy associated with it, you know what I mean?
I feel like I agree with you, but I feel like it's because the reason why they come off that way now is because of I think they have that like humble because of their planet being gone, like their planet being uninhabitable.
Like
You know
this
what I mean?
sadness, almost like
Like
a
I think
sadness.
that the energy that you're feeling, like I get the
Mm,
Sparta vibe and stuff, but I feel like you know, in a lot of those movies, the hero is always depicted as like, you know, kind of sad at the end. Like, you know what I mean?
mm,
Like yeah, they're
mhm.
victorious, but
Oh, that's
like,
deep.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I feel
That's
like it
deep.
comes off in like this humble like yeah, we lost something.
Almost
And
like a
so
regret type of thing. Yeah.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
but like more in like a, we want to like stop you from making our mistake, like kind of like that
Yes.
parental,
Yes,
like,
like you learn from
yeah,
they learn from their
right,
mistakes and they are helping us evolve by not having that happen kind of. Yeah.
right. And
And
we are children and
oh,
like, yeah, whatever, we'll figure it out.
see, but that no, it's deep though because those souls who had exactly why we're all so connected because it's like those souls that had that happen on their planet are exactly incarnated on Earth, so they kind of almost brought that karma over to Earth. So these things are playing out on Earth, and this is actually true of all the different groups that we're talking about. It's like there are like intergalactic affairs going on, and a lot of what happens on Earth is almost like a smaller expression of like the large things that's happening galactically. So if these groups are coming and almost like bringing they're playing out their karma on a soul level through their Earth incarnations. So depending on your own soul incarnations and your past lives, like you're coming into Earth, like you could be playing out karma or you can be, there are many different possibilities. So it's just a
Yeah.
cool other thing to think about.
The last thing that I kind of want to mention, just because I feel
Mhm.
like this is a topic that we've already said that we're going to talk about eventually, so I don't necessarily want you to get um too into it, but
I'm going to
one of the things that they mentioned in the article that I researched about the Martians was that they share a lot of traits with the indigo starseed. And does that sound right to you? Does that sound correct? How do you feel about that particular thing? Because I was, I'm still, really kind of learning all
no.
the different idiosyncrasies about each star seed. So like I feel like you kind of have a better understanding. And so I didn't want to put any like much thought to that, but I was curious what you thought because I feel like that's something that you wanted to talk about eventually, and we'll get to that. But if you can like tell me what you think in like a quick little whippy answer,
Indigo. Okay, I'm gonna say a quick explanation of this.
because we will get into indigo for sure. That's definitely
Well,
something that's like on the top of the list.
an indigo, I get where this article that you were reading is coming from because an indigo is a type of star seed, as well as like any galactic group we're talking about is a type of star seed, but
Hmm.
indigo is not a type of star seed in the sense of from a specific place. This is the indigo place. There
Okay.
is no indigo place.
Right.
Indigo
Right.
means a type of star seed incarnated on Earth with an aura that glows the color indigo, that are here, that was a certain generation. We'll get into that.
Yes.
So I see where it's making the connection and how there is quite a like fighter spirit known to like the indigo star seeds, like tend to be rebels, tend to be
Okay.
like, want to break down the systems that are fucking up humanity,
Right.
because some
The
starseed groups
activism.
are,
The
yes, like
activism.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of fight in it. There is a
Right.
lot of fight in it. Whereas some
Or like for
starseed
the
groups are just
good.
very
A
like,
fight for
oh,
good.
yes, yes,
Yes.
like badass
Yes.
rebels, like
Right.
getting
Yeah.
this shit, like breaking down the evil shit.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So I can see that.
Okay.
But
That's kind of
just
what
don't
I
get
was
confused about the group
curious.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just kind of
Yeah.
curious if it was more of like a trait that they were kind of like saying that they were similar, or if it was like the people were just very similar. Like I was just curious, and so that was perfect. Yeah, I
Mhm.
totally understand.
Mhm.
So they have that like
Yes.
same activism, and I totally get that because Martians, like we were just talking about it. Like I feel like
Mhm.
they're here to like
Very
make the
masculine.
change, like, but they're
Yeah.
they're still fighters, but they're fighting for good now instead of
Yes.
what they were fighting for before. Yeah.
Yes. And who knows?
And I
I
mean, we don't
mean, I
even know
don't
what
know
they were
what they
fighting
were
for before.
fighting for
Yeah.
before,
I
so
mean,
it doesn't mean that they were necessarily like,
maybe they were fighting for
I
good and
don't
it just
know.
went bad.
Yeah,
Sometimes
because
that
I mean
happens.
because also remember that within all of these groups, they also have their own duality. So there were groups the same way that with how life is on Earth. Like there's
Yeah.
people who have one way of thinking, this is what is right and this is how the world should go, and then there's people doing things the exact opposite way, and like, you know, there's a deep trauma with that. So yeah, like we don't have to go all the way into that, but I like that you brought that up.
Yeah, I figured that it was necessary since it'll be a little foreshadowing for all of you because it's coming.
Yes.
We're going to talk about it. But
yeah.
So that was 3 more star seeds. So we're like almost halfway through, like the top 10, top 12, something like that.
Yes, and
We're
I
getting
don't
there.
even know if we could say top 10, top like.
I feel like it's got to be infinite. Those are just the ones that people talk about.
Yeah, and like, yeah, I feel like there's more than that people talk about, and even the top 10, I would say there's probably a top 5. Like, I feel like the one that we're about to talk about in this next episode we're about to record right now, it's probably one of the tops.
Yeah.
Because it's a very well-known,
Right.
a lot of this group on Earth at the time.
And we'll get back to probably doing longer episodes where we record one at a time, but we have some things coming up for both of us, and we wanted to make sure we could put out episodes every week. So we had a couple back-to-back weekends of double recordings. So we're trying to give you a little bit of something, but we'll get you more in the next episode too, and then we'll probably get to go back to maybe a little bit longer episode and just do one, maybe.
We will see. We will see.
We will see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll switch it up. I mean, life is life, and
you can tell us what you think below.
Yeah, do you like a longer episode where we go into everything deep? Do you like our tangents? Do you want us to be super more concise? Let us know how you feel, because we are kind of just vibing, but we have our intention of how we want things to go, and we don't want to get too crazy out there in one direction. But, you know, we would love to know what you guys think.
Yes, definitely. But for now, you can connect with us obviously in the comments or in our email, as we mentioned already, but it's at cosmiconnect.frenchiexvii@gmail. I will have it below. And I'm at bloo.river.
Yes, and I am at Frenchie V. That's frenchiexvii.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Woo! All right. Cut for the first one.